What's up everybody, it's your boy SCraftBlendz back again with another barber tutorial, and today we are going to do a high taper on my man here. We start out first by combing all of the waves in the direction of the wave pattern, so I'm going with the grain. And now I'm going to use my JRL 2020 clippers with a #1 premium guard on there. I have the blade fully open, so it's equivalent to almost a 1.5. So one open, going with the grain once again, and we'll do that all around the head. He's got some decent waves in the back and some decent waves up top. The sides, not so much, but whenever you put that high taper on there, I feel like it makes it look really good. So whenever I'm in the front there, I'm just making sure that I'm, kind of light, and while I was combing, I'm just making sure I'm looking for any cowlicks that are up front, or in the back, just making sure that I do not, cut into those cowlicks. So now I close the #1 fully, and I'm going into that taper area, just going with the grain with the #1. So it already kind of starts to set up that blend for me. And then because I like my lines to look sharp over the ear and towards the back of the neck, I'll go down with that #1 close as well, just cleaning up the loose hairs around the edges so it gives me a sharper lineup. So now I've had people ask me before, so for customers that come in every week, how do you approach that kind of haircut? And he comes in pretty much every week, every other week, and basically there's not a whole lot to cut off. So what I like to do is just gently down fade for the most part. So as you saw, I went down with the one in open and then the one closed, kind of like I'm doing right here. But then I just take that #1 open and I go into that #1 closed, and then I just closed it now and just kind of flicking in there, but being really gentle and light-handed, not to take it too far back. It is a high taper, but I'm just kind of being gentle with it because it seems like it's a lot easier when the hair is long. It just seems like, there's a lot more clarity in your steps. And I mean, you could do the same thing, but for me, I don't want to mess anything up. So I like to just kind of fade down. That way I can kind of stretch that fade down to where I want it at. This is a technique I use too. It's called raking, and I use the blade open and no guard, and I just kind of rake at the hair just to make sure that we lay those down, and then I, with an open blade, just go back into it and taper it in. So a lot of people may have trouble doing a fade down technique simply because there's no guidelines. I just kind of keep the guidelines in my imagination, and I just know where I want this blend to be, right? Where I want it to end, where I want it to start, where I want the middle to be. So keeping that in mind, I can use whatever guard or the corner of the blade like I'm doing now, just to tap at any dark spots that are in the area that I want this thing to blend. And because he recently just colored his hair, which is what some of us old guys have to do, we have to color our hair to get all them grays out, to make everything look young and smooth, you know what I'm saying? Being he did that, there's a little bit this kind of staining the skin as well. I like the fact that it makes his hair look nice and dark, but there's a little bit that's he didn't take the color all the way down into the bald taper area, but you can see kind of a little bit on his skin in the higher taper area. So that's kind of part of the struggle I'm working with right now, is just making sure that what I'm hitting is hair versus, a stain on the skin. But while I'm fading down, I use a lot of just corners because I feel like I can give it the shape that I want, kind of that high taper, but kind of where it curves from the ear to the top of the C-cup area. Plus he has that lighter area towards the front, right behind the vertical bar, kind of right above where my knuckles at. He has that lighter area, and that's where the color did not get on the skin, but then it drops down on what I'm working on now where the color did get on the skin. So I'm just working at that. Watching this haircut may be a little bit different, maybe a little bit challenging to follow along, and I apologize about that. However, there again, what I'm doing is simply fading down. So I'm going to go with, one open into the one that I went down against the grain with. And then I close that number one, just dropping a little bit lower. And I blend the one closed into the one open. And then I take that guard off and I raked down with the guard open, just cleaning that up. And then I had the guard, or the blade open rather, and just fading into the area that I just raked down. And then I'll close it halfway, and then I close it all the way, and then I come in with the trimmers and touch it up. And I always know that I can come back and do detail work later, just kind of laying more of a foundation. But because of, how I want to address this color issue on the head and, keep the blend looking good, I'm using a lot of the corner of the blade, the corner of my trimmers, the corner of my clipper blade, and now hitting some, fuller, darker areas. I may use more of the blade, but even then it's only like half of the blade. And I'm being very cautious just to hit where I want to hit and not go up too far. And something I do with this little bouncing motion, just lightly bouncing, just with the corner. It may look like I'm using the full blade, but I'm actually just using the corner. It's almost like a thinning shear technique, and I'm just kind of tapping in any of the weightier areas to reduce some of that bulk. Constantly combing, brushing, things like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the JRL trimmers. And as you can see, right now I'm actually have the Andis T-outliner blade on the trimmers. The blade that they sent me with the trimmers hits really nice. However, someone was like, hey man, have you tried the Andis blade on there? And I said, no, not yet, So I went ahead and put the blade on there, and I may show you how to do that as well in a video. It's pretty simple, but there is a little catch to the whole situation that I'll share with you in a video. But anyways, they're hitting nice though. I ain't even gonna lie. You'll see in a minute when I do these back lines, they're hitting pretty good. So we created our bald line, then we balded it out underneath. Now I'm gonna go ahead and up fade on the back portion. And usually I always up fade. I may down fade in every other area, whether it's a full fade or a taper, but usually for whatever reason in the back, I just like to stick with the simple system. I feel like it just works better. So we created our first guideline, then we balded it out. Now we're coming in with the blade open, and we'll create the second guideline. And I'm not really trying to make a guideline. I mean, you'll be able to see kind of the transition there, but I don't want to create a harsh guideline simply because I'm just cleaning this haircut up, not trying to do a whole full-blown cut, even though it is a full-blown cut and he's gonna pay for a full-blown cut. I just want to be gentle and not just jump in as if it was long. So then we did it open, and then we do it halfway, and we work our way down, and we close the blade, knocking out that bottom guideline. Now I'm coming in with number one open, and I'm just trying to lightly, just make sure I'm paying attention to the shade, right? I want it to be darker, and gradually as it goes down in the blend, get lighter and lighter and lighter. And so I'm not wanting to just dig up in there with that number one, but now that I went in with the number one open, then I close that number one and just tap at that second guideline, blending it out. There again, I like to lay a foundation and come back in later and just do detail work. So once again, for those that have been asking about the wall guards on the JRL clippers, they work great. Here's the zero guard, or the half guard rather, and I'm just using it halfway open, and then I'll close it all the way, just tapping at that bottom line, trying to tie this blend together. Now that we did that and have a good foundation laid, I'm just going to come in. Can't really see how sharp they hit right now because my hand's in the way. I apologize about that, but on the other side, you'll see them things hit, man. They hit really nice. So what you do to one side, you do to the other. and you guys already watched me do the other side, so I'm gonna speed this up for the sake of time and just you know, let you guys watch. So as you can see, I went down with that number 1 close. Now I'm, you know, doing the raking motion to lay a good foundation, kind of stretch that blend a little bit. Now with that blade open, going up against that, and as you can see, there's a color stain on this side of the head as well. So I'm just being careful to work with that, and I'll come back in and try to dig out some of that color stain, which is obviously very difficult. But if you know me, I'll keep at it. I'll try to get it off, whether I use alcohol or my trimmer or scrape it off, something. We'll figure out something to make this blend come together. So as you can see, we did that blade open, the blade halfway closed, blade all the way closed, knocking out the bottom guideline. Then I came in with my trimmers and shavers, and then I jumped into that number 1 and the half, just trying to tie all this together. Basically same thing I did on the other side. Sometimes I may use a different step, you know, but it's always the same. Here's something I do too. There again, if the blend is pretty much coming together, but I still have some heavier weight lines, I just, not only do I rake, but I'll kind of lean my clipper in the angle you just saw and kind of come down with no guard as well. So now that we clean that up, now look at this. Woo, them things hitting. I tell you what, if you do like the Andis T-Outliner blade, the GTX blade that I have on here, and you're not really feeling the cordless outliners, I'm not particularly. These blades on this particular trimmer make it feel like the corded T-Outliners, man. It's ridiculous. I mean, they just hit hard. You can't really tell how hard they're hitting right here, simply because I am barely trying to touch any hairs. Remember, he just came in last week, so I don't want to push it back to get a sharp line. I can create that sharp line with a little bit of color enhancement. I'm getting it as sharp as possible, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to push it back. So I went ahead and put a little color on there, and then I came in, no hairspray this time, and I just threw the hair fibers on. And it's just, if I'm in a hurry, sometimes you guys, if you watch my video, you know I'll lay down hairspray, hair fibers, hairspray, and it holds really well. However, if I'm in a hurry, or I'm just kind of testing also right now, where I just put the fibers down, then I line it up, so I'm not worried about all that hairspray sticking to the forehead. Then I'll come in and just put hairspray on top of that to hold it down. So I'm interested to see what he says about it. And then I came in after the hairspray with a generous amount of hairspray. Went ahead and used my JRL blow dryer they sent me to just dry everything up really quick. And now I'm coming back in, just hitting that line once again to make sure we have anything hanging over, that it looks really sharp. And once we get that situated, I come in with my barber pencil. You guys have seen me do it and other barbers do it. Very simple process. Just kind of drew the line on there, hit it with a trimmer again, and now I'm coming in with the razor. And just, usually I like to lean them back in the chair and do that top line. However, I don't mind just, instead of going up with the razor against it, I don't mind just going down with it as well and just cleaning up the forehead. So now that we have pretty much the basic cut done, I just come in, you know, and just do detail work, trying to hit that stain right there a little bit, and but also pay attention to the rest of the fade, and doing the same thing here. Clipper blade all the way open, but just lightly tapping with the corner, just trying to tap away, you know, some of that weight is creating more of that line. The line is not too noticeable. I mean, it flows, it's all symmetrical, so it would pass. But I do like to just sit there and kind of tap at it, man, just to make it look like it blends a little bit better. And then, because there's still a little more weight that I like, I'm using that technique again, no guard, blade open, and just kind of being very gentle to just kind of freehand some of that weight out of that blend area so that it just flows better. So as you can see, it's coming together. Now I'm just still tapping at little spots that I see that just, they don't tie in like I want them to, so I'm just tapping at that. And then even now, I'm probably gonna come in with the trimmer as well, just to tap out that little color stain right there. It bothers me, and yes, it may not come off the skin, but I'll try, dang it. All right, so now that we got both sides cleaned up, I'll just make sure all my edges are nice and sharp. And I believe that I went over his head already with the trimmer, just to knock down any loose hairs. Make sure you do that. It's part of the detail work. And there again, clean up the neck, get that looking clean. I like to pull the shirt down in the back to make sure, you know, I get deep down, you know, in that neck area to make sure that we get everything. Hit him with that cherry almond alcohol. And I believe the cut came out nice. Tell me what you think. Hey, make sure you like this video, comment if you enjoyed it. And there again, there's the finished cut, guys. If you are not following me on Instagram, make sure you do that at S.Craft_blends for more content. Once again, I appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. God bless you guys. Peace.